Ready? Good evening, and welcome to Bedtime Stories 2. I'm in Morro Bay, and we're looking at seals and seagulls, beautiful water, and today I'm going to tell you how I got the book published, Quiet Elegance, Japan Through the Eyes of 9 American Artists. Hope you enjoy the story. So, this is the story for today. The story today is how I got this book, Quiet Elegance, Japan Through the Eyes of 9 American Artists, published. When I decided to do this about 20 years ago with my sister Betsy, everybody told me I was crazy. They said you needed an agent or you had to know somebody to get a book published. The idea for Quiet Elegance came about because all the books on Japanese art only talked about contemporary Japanese prints and paintings, and also antique Japanese prints and paintings. And nobody had ever written a book on the American artists in Japan. So about 18 years ago, I went to Japan and I interviewed all the artists. And when I came back and worked with my sister, who is a professional writer, and we put the stories together, and I spent all the money I had to get the photographs taken for the book. And after I put it all together, I called my sister from Cleveland and I said, Betsy, I'm going to send this book to the Charles E. Tuttle Company, which is one of the top publishers of Asian art books. And she said, you know, Michael, you're going to have to send it to like over 30 places, and you'll be lucky if you get a note back. I said, I know that, but if I didn't believe in these people, and if they weren't my friends, I wouldn't have written the book with you. So Charles E. Tuttle's main headquarters was in Boston in the United States, and there were about 5 different versions of the manuscript. I put the correct one together with the photographs, and I sent it off using Federal Express. And I called the Charles E. Tuttle Company the next day to make sure they had received the manuscript and the photographs. And they said, no, I'm sorry, Mr. Vernon, we didn't receive anything. And they didn't know who the heck I was. And so I thought, well, I better call up Federal Express and see what happened. I call up Federal Express, and this person gets on the phone. I said, I've been working on this book for over 2.5 years, and I've got all these really expensive photographs, and it didn't arrive in Boston. They said, 1 second, we'll connect you to a supervisor. The supervisor gets on the phone. He says, well, I'm sorry, Mr. Verne. He says, but there was smoke in the cabin of that plane, and it had to make an emergency landing in New York. And I said, is everything all right? He says, oh yeah, it's okay. Don't worry, just a little bit of smoke. So I went home that night, and I turned on the national news, and the second thing out of Dan Rather's mouth was, and a Federal Express plane burns on the way to Boston today. This is the first time in the history of Federal Express. And it shows this plane on the runway. It's completely blackened. The top's burned off. And you can see the FedEx sign underneath all the black soot. So I said, oh my God, the book burned up. So I thought maybe I didn't see it right, so I started switching channels, and every national channel was FedEx plane burns. So the next day I called up the Charles E. Tuttle Company and told them what happened, and they started laughing. And I only had one more copy of the photographs. I couldn't afford to spend any more on the photographs. I didn't have the money. And it took me about a week to get all the manuscripts back together, and about a week to 10 days later I sent the last copy of the book off to the Charles E. Tuttle Company again. And I didn't hear anything back from them, and about 10 days later I get the whole thing back in the mail in the same packaging I had sent it in, and I thought, oh my God, Michael, this is a stupid idea. You must have to know somebody or have an agent. My sister was right. And so I went to take out the manuscript and the photographs, and inside was a letter saying, yes, we'd like to publish Quiet Elegance. So I always tell people that if you want to get a book published, you should always burn the first copy. The only reason the people looked at it was they wanted to see who the nut was who called on the phone. And if I can write a book, anybody can write a book. These bedtime stories are meant to make you believe in yourself and to realize that anything is possible. Many of these American artists have gone on to become quite famous now, and there aren't many of the Quiet Elegance books left anymore. They're almost all sold out. And there will be 3 more stories here, which will lead up to a book for children that my sister Betsy and I, with the help of my other sister Hari, have written called Knish stories. And these were stories that my dad would tell us before we would go to sleep. And the purpose of the story was to make you not go to sleep because they were really wild stories. But they also were meant to make you use your imagination and to believe that anything was possible. So I hope you've enjoyed this bedtime story and believe.
Burning down the house here.
I didn't do it.